Hello and welcome back to another episode of For Azeroth. I am one of your hosts, Manny, and I am joined by the other two parts of the Triumvirate. Let's begin with introducing the Sultan of Sean. Hello, Sean. How are you doing?
Hey, Manny. Hey, it's Manny. I hate to do this. I don't like to be that guy. If you know what somebody is saying, you shouldn't correct them. But our auto captions keep pointing out. They keep thinking you're trying to say triumphant. It's triumvirate.
That's what I said. Maybe it's just a pronunciation thing. Triumvirate.
I want to have to stop correcting the auto captions.
All right. We may ditch this all together.
Their Canadian accents.
Triumvirate.
There you go. Nailed it.
Okay, and the other voice that you heard was Lex Ritz.
Hello. I pronounce everything perfectly, as we know.
You do. Johann Sebastian.
What are you laughing about, Manny?
Life goes on.
Oh.
So, guys, this is it. The show's entirely derailed. Good job, Sean. How's the World of Warcraft treating you?
Well, it's great. I've completed my mop remix. So all items that can be purchased with bronze have been purchased, max level on the character, and done all of the quests in Mr. Pandaria. So I don't ever have to log into that mode again.
Okay. And I'm guessing season 4 has kind of been done for you for a while?
Yeah, since what day did season 4 launch?
Oh, damn. Okay. Okay. Well, all right. Lex, how's your adventures in Azeroth treating you?
Oh, wow. We're really derailing. Nobody has normal adventures in Azeroth right now. I have been experiencing a life shakeup, which involved me moving a couple states with like a couple weeks notice. So to be honest, I have not had many adventures in Azeroth, but I'm finally stable. I finally have a home that soon will have stable Wi-Fi. And then I'm going to be going absolutely bananas because I won't know anyone here. So I won't have anything else to do other than play video games.
Okay, you're setting up for the long haul.
This is the real. This is more hack. Is if you move someplace and don't make any friends, you get to play so many video games because nobody invites you anywhere.
I mean, like, welcome to the last 3 years of my life. It's like getting a place.
You can also, but
go ahead.
Manny, you can also blow up your life, and you can just come live with me, and I'll invite you to do things, and then neither of us can play video games.
Guys, I feel like that would be really bad.
And then you want to worry about being house poor.
I mean, like I said, I already did that 3 years ago. Kind of blew up everything. Moved out to like outside of the Toronto core, and so now it's like more suburban. And this place actually goes to sleep. It's not the same as the city life, so it is a complete thing. My I don't know. I guess when you get old, all of your friends move everywhere, and so like it's always going to happen. You're just following a natural part of life. And you know what, Lex? Pretty soon you'll be in your 30s, and this is how it goes, Lex.
That's true. I'm just getting a head start on this. I have already jumped to the like moving to the middle of nowhere and never speaking to another person that most people wait until they're like 60s to get to. And I was ready to go. I was born old.
Don't worry. Soul. In a couple of years, you'll like pick up again and then move back to your hometown, and you'll be like, where's everybody? And just like the reconnect, that happens. And it will happen sometimes. Actually, it hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm sure many people do it.
I grew up in Iowa, which for those of you who don't know the different states is insanely cheap. to the point where I get really sad looking at like housing prices around here, because I'm like, wait, you're telling me that I can't buy a house for like $150,000? Like a multi-family, what are you talking about? That's a normal housing price. So I can't imagine moving back to Iowa for a variety of reasons, but if I were to decide to blow up my life again, the odds that I'd choose to go someplace with lower housing prices is non-zero.
Okay. Well, as for me, I've been doing the mount hunting. I've been doing a lot of like I like to sort of take the downtime and go back to old expansions and try and like capture those last little things that I'm missing. While like most of the time when it's like pushing through the season, like I'm focused on like whatever the new content is. So there's been that. But then I wanted to say that I've been playing beta, but I've also sort of fallen off the beta because shamans have not been getting any changes for a long time. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save my energy for when those changes come. And hopefully the Hopium will last until then. And then I'll be able to dive in and just be like, okay, this is all the stuff that changes and get all that feedback. So I'd like to say I'm pacing myself and not just burning out. But I've seen a lot of people burning out at this time for a lot of the stuff in WoW, even though we've got Cataclysm that's launched, Season of Discovery that's getting new stuff there, and again, all the stuff with the War Within that's coming out. But we're here to talk about modern game. Do you call it modern? Do you call it retail? Like, Sean, what do you say
retail?
You say retail, Lex?
Yeah.
I say World of Warcraft.
You say World of Warcraft, regardless of what version is.
You classic. You guys can figure it out on your own. You get the special word. I'm playing World of Warcraft. I'm kidding. I love my classic friend. You guys are doing so good.
Both of them are great.
So proud of you. I could never do it.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the actual news that's been happening. So let's have, well, you know, Sean, you start off with this first article here.
Cool. Yeah, this week, all of last week was like win after win after win for Blizzard, as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to be a good week for covering the news. They shadow dropped a change to the way that mounts work for holiday events, wherein they are only available the first time you kill it per day per account. And each day that you kill it, but do not get the mount, you gain bad luck protection so that you get an increased chance the next day. The only question, this is an unequivocal win. The only question, it completely eliminates the need to farm out on 75 alts a day, and we will no longer see tweets like, I killed Love Rocket 45 times every day for the event, and now well, I'm not really going to kill it 14 times. You're welcome. Here's a bunch of free time back in your life. The only question that I have is, does the bad luck protection, which isn't the term they use, but that's what it is, does the bad luck protection carry over? If I don't get the Midsummer Fire Festival mount skin this year, do the attempts that I've made carry over to next year? And I don't think we have an answer on that.
Yeah, I have not seen an answer for that. I've actually seen a couple of other different complaints, because obviously how many different people are playing it, how many different ways. And so they all have things that are like, oh, but this is how it disadvantages me. So the people who had the army of alts, they're like, could you at least have the original lesser chance on the other attempts so that I can do it? There are people who play and they don't do any of the end game stuff that we usually talk about on the show. Their thing is collecting, whether it's pets or mounts or anything. And so these holidays are kind of like the big push for them. And I had a friend who would like get a bunch of alt, and the biggest thing they would do is holiday stream. These are all my attempts. These are all my attempts. And so I have seen people who say, well, now I log in and do one attempt, and then that's it. I'd like all this effort that I've put into all these other these alts. It's wasted. And Blizzard, why didn't you give me a heads up? So like, there's been complaints from that end. There's people who are complaining that Blizzard hasn't put out the actual odds, and if it's not pretty much guaranteed by the time that you've made the 14 attempts, they still think it's not quite enough. And this is legitimately people making this argument with me. And so, like, it's
I have a
better.
question. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
I just want a short interrupt. Have any of these people who are now complaining that they get a bad luck protection on 1 kill a day, did any of them ever complain about drop rates in the events prior to it going to this method? Did any of them ever say things like, I farmed this every damn? If they did, then they can just take the win. Take the win. Just take it.
I don't believe people. Sometimes people are not capable of taking the win, and I get the strive for the ideal. I get to put it nicely. I get when people strive for an ideal. Ideally, they'd like it to get to this point. And yes, it's great that you've made this improvement, but it's not quite there. That's the most constructive way I can put it. I am closer to the way that you put it, which is, come on. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I think that, again, there are a bunch of different perspectives on this. I'm not going to say that my perspective, as much as it might align with yours, is better than anybody else's perspective. It's just where I'm sitting, and I understand that, hey, like, I actually think that in the world of collectibles, there should be some things that are chase. There should be some things that you aren't guaranteed or even likely to get in the course of your playthrough, right? Maybe those things shouldn't be on holidays where it is a limited amount of time to attempt it, right? But I don't think that Invincible should have bad luck protection so that eventually you're guaranteed to get it, right? I think that every so often they should maybe put in a, hey, during this time, there's a greater chance it drops, so that people can every so often be like, okay, this is going to reinvigorate it, or maybe I'll only try during these periods. That's the same reason that I think that the stuff that dropped in Pandaria with this Mr. Pandaria remix, I'm fine with them being like, hey, you want to put in the effort and go for this? You can buy it on the vendor, but it's a limited time. It's not completely replacing the stuff. It's just a thing. But I know that there are people who are going to show up right near the end of Mr. Pandaria and be like, come on, why would you put it so high? I can't get to this stuff in time. Whatever events, valid events, have caused them to not be able to take full advantage of Pandaria, and now they feel disadvantaged, right? And there's always going to be some sort of disadvantage. If you could get something guaranteed, if you log in 10 days, the people who can only log in 9 days are going to be like, come on, and so forth and so forth. There's always going to be some sort of disadvantage. So the conversation's always going to be continuing. I just think that this is a good move for holiday mounts. I just don't want it for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a joy to rarity. I do also, I've said this on the show before, and I'm not necessarily saying this is a critique, but I do find it really interesting how World of Warcraft, the game that when it came out was synonymous with grinding, right? The game that pushed MMOs into this grinding mindset because everyone wanted to be like World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft was where everything was going, and everyone was like, oh, I guess this is how you make an MMO, is now not only trying to minimize grinding, but making it so that grinding is not beneficial. And again, I do appreciate this, right? That was one thing that made World of Warcraft tough for me, and one thing that makes it a lot easier for me to play as much as I, to enjoy it and do the content that I want to do, is the fact that I don't have to grind. So if I take some time off, that's okay. I just find it fascinating, like having played this game since Wrath and then taking a break and then coming back, like to see how much the mindset Blizzard had about MMOs and about how its player base should be engaging with the game has shifted just like drastically, right? Like complete 180 on how they expect us to interact with the game.
I definitely think that it is far less grindy, and that it almost feels like the overturn window of what is considered like valid play and what is a grotesque grind has shifted so huge over the course of WoW's 20 years. But to even take it further, when World of Warcraft first came out, it was the anti-grind game, Lex. When you look at games like EverQuest, that you had to like literally stand there and just kill 20 monsters to get through a level. There wasn't a questing system to like hand you out XP, right? And those sort of MMOs, that was the grind. It was literally like, you've got to kill 20 of these to get to level 6, and then you got to go to this place and kill 40 of these to get to the next level, and so forth. So WoW in its inception was the anti-grind MMO, and what people have accepted as grind has just completely shifted. So it is very strange. And it is all, I'm going to say this flat out, guys, it's arbitrary. Wherever they put the line, and if you think it has to be somewhere else, so that's your decision. And it, like, I'm sure even amongst the designers, they had a bunch of differing opinions on where exactly that point should be.
And I mean, also, I should also say, because I know that this is very true. I'm sure this is one of the things driving world the developers. That like this is also really healthy, right? Like I remember all of there's stories online of like, you know, people's relationships falling apart. Like the addiction that occurred in the World of Warcraft was like really, really bad. Like I remember, and this is, I want to be clear, it's not like a traumatic story to me, but like I remember my dad playing World of Warcraft for like hours and hours and hours a day. And it became like a running joke that like if you ask dad a question, you could do something else because he's not going to process that you're talking to him for another 10 minutes, right? Like, and this was all very, not really 10 minutes, but like, and this, you know, it rolled right off my back as a kid, but like looking back, I'm like, oh my God, right? Like, good Lord, like this game grabbed him and pulled him in. I play Final Fantasy now as a family. But the degree where World of Warcraft was driving addiction early on was really, really bad and causing a lot of really genuine harm. So the fact that the developers are pulling away from that is really positive. I don't want to construe this at all as me being like, let's go back to the day when everyone was posting on whatever forums they were on that like they hadn't had a real conversation with their spouse in the last 3 months because they were just playing World of Warcraft. So thank you to the devs for the thoughtfulness and the love that's clearly going into this game. But I do think it's very interesting.
For sure. So that's all from like this new Midsummer Fest. They have a new dragon riding customization. I don't chase those. They're not actually mounts in the mount entry, so it's never something that I chase. Strange little distinction for me. But there has been more stuff coming because on top of, you know, increased drop chances and less grind to get those, they're also removing some of the services which people were complaining about as microtransactions. The two ones that are being removed are the guild services that are transferring your guild to a different realm, and that's obviously because cross realm guilds are going to be a thing. And the other one is that guild faction transfers are gone because you can have people from all different factions in your guild even today. So both of those are going away on July 22nd. And people are looking at this and saying, huh, is there more of a story behind it? Sean, you like to look at these things, read the tea leaves. What do your eyes see with this?
Yeah. So again, another absolute W. This means that the War Within pre-patch is coming. We're excited about that. People online saw this date. 2 days before this announcement, they data mined a splash screen, Bluebot spoiler alert, that the pre-patch was going to start on July 30th. With the actual date on there on this splash screen they found. 2 days later, the Blizzard announced they were retiring these services, and all of the people who found that screenshot immediately said, it's the 23rd. It's probably still the 30th. They're just retiring them a week early. I know right now the hot thing to say is they've all but confirmed it's the 23rd with this move. But I think we're probably still looking at the 30th, and the splash screen they made with that date as the start of the pre-patch, and that they're just sunsetting these services a week ahead of time, as opposed to the night before. That's my thought. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think, Manny or Lex? Do you think, have either of you heard that rumor that suddenly it's now a week earlier than the splash screen that was data mined.
So I will say, I think maybe I'm misremembering things. In my experience, when somebody data mines a date, Blizzard likes to change it. Am I making that up? Is that the ramping? I feel like there was another time that somebody data mined a screen that said like this is coming this day, and Blizzard was like, "Oop, actually, it's coming tomorrow, so you guys gotta all suck it up." But I'm making that up.
I think sometimes they would like to do it.
Mm-hmm. I will say though, like they're not like this service is. I don't know that I would agree that like if they're doing it on the 20th, if they're removing the service on the 22nd, that they're going to then be putting out the War Within pre-patch the next day, because like, there's no guild so urgent that you need to be able to faction transfer or realm transfer the day before, right? Like any of this can be. So I don't know, agree that like because the faction transfers are coming out the 22nd, then obviously within pre-patch on the 23rd.
I would agree with definitely Sean's reasoning. Like, you don't create a graphics and then be like, oh, they data mined it, let's change the graphics, get back to work, artists. That's just wasted man hours. Two, guys, this is a faction transfer for a guild and a guild service. Those things take time to be pending and time to process. You would never do that the day before and then screw up the system. There's also the fact that, like, if you were to change the charge for something that becomes invalid the next day, you are going to cause a lot of customer strife that they don't want. So obviously they sunset it before, get all of that stuff cleared out, and then they make the switch. It's just business-wise, you don't want to put yourself in that situation. So no, I do not believe this suddenly means that we're getting the patch earlier. But it's fun to watch people just throw out random speculation.
Completely spin out. It's fun to watch people completely spin out.
Now, some more fun news. Because like, yeah, this is actually a pretty good, like you're saying, a lot of W's this week. Let's have Lex. Do you want to take the Gamescom announcement?
Yeah. So Blizzard, as we all know, that they're not hosting BlizzCon this year. But they did say that they were going to be taking this time to be part of other more local conventions and celebratory things. And they mentioned Gamescom as an option, and they've announced it. So Blizzard will be at Gamescom with World of Warcraft, Diablo, and Overwatch, presumably. I read the article and now I'm forgetting what exactly it said, but they're gonna be here. And so if if you're European,
yep.
I swear to God, I read this article.
Yeah. Cologne is Germany, right?
Yeah.
No,
Cologne's France.
France?
Yeah, Cologne.
Sounds,
but Gamescom,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure, is in Germany. Is it in Cologne?
I thought I read Cologne. I'm just going to quickly click through because
we're doing so great.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm pretty sure Gamescom
we're really
in Germany.
disproving the like.
Yeah, returning to Cologne.
Oh,
I read it right.
I thought Cologne was in France.
No.
Keep on with the show.
Largest city in the German state. Yeah, it is in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some Europeans would be like, "Come on, guys, basic geography." Clearly, you are North American.
We're really proving
also a Cologne,
North
France.
American. Yeah.
There is also a Cologne, France.
Okay, great.
We're doing, but this is a Germany. Yeah, it'll be August 21st to 25th. And they'll be bopping right along in Germany.
A surprising number of Warcraft content creators made announcements saying, hey, we're going to randomly go to go to Gamescom this year. prior to this announcement happening, and now it just seems to. And when the announcement came out, a lot of them were like, "Oh, what a fun coincidence." I suspect it's not as much of a coincidence as they want us to believe.
The timing is weird though, because like Gamescom this year is happening from August 21st to the 25th, right? That means that all those creators that are going there, it's going to be a celebration of like the launch of the War Within, because War Within early access is right there during that time, right? And the launch is the 26th. 22nd is the early release.
The launch is the 22nd.
Launch is the 22nd. What's the early?
Yeah. So launch is the 22nd. Late release is the 26th.
Oh, come on. Okay.
I'm just saying, you're not paying for an early release. You're not paying to get a late launch. The game War Within, if all of the questing in the zones is all available on the 22nd, that's the launch of the game. It's not an early access. There's no feature stripped down. That's the launch of the game.
There literally is
they just haven't started season 1 yet. I mean, we don't have any details on what's available in the quote unquote early release. But if it's just not the start of season 1, that would be the exact same as if it was the 26th.
I know that they're going to do stuff with dungeon lockouts. They're going to be doing stuff with any of those weekly rotational stuff, so that people who come in on the quote unquote late releases, you're calling it now, aren't going to be disadvantaged in that way. So
yeah, that's what they do. That happens even at the launch though, where it launches if it launches on a Monday, you wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff till reset on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some of that stuff. I think that they should give more information about what exactly is there. But like cynically, I think it helps them sell the higher version if they don't tell you how much is limited until much later.
Yeah. But I think there's I think we're going to see a massive, we'll call it a pre-launch event at Gamescom with a lot of European creators. I haven't seen any NA creators say they were going yet. It's just been all European, which makes sense. But I think you're going to see a pretty big event. But I have no confirmation of this. It's just all speculation based on the individuals that I've seen on Twitter and on their streams say they were going. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like,
I'm a little surprised.
Sorry, go ahead, Dex.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they timed it like this. Not to be the girl who on every episode is like, think of the devs, but like that is going to be exhausting, right? Like if they're in the middle of their launch while some of their team is like in Europe, I guess they presumably have a European team, but like, like there's going to be work that's being done that needs to be done because it's the launch and there's going to be a million bugs and everyone's freaking out and forums are going crazy and everything requires a ton of extra labor. So I'm mildly surprised that they didn't time their like if they knew they were going to Gamescom, that they didn't time the release to dodge it, since to some degree there's never going to be a perfect time.
Yeah, I think they timed the release to hit it. I think they want to hit it. It's a major event. It's a major gaming event. They can now have a presence, and they're on stage and they can say, and World of Warcraft, the War Within early access is live now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that exact quote. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, because like when you look at the timing of this, they've already put out with like the Xbox Games Showcase. They've already put out, hey, this is when it's releasing. Here's when Diablo's having its first expansion. So like, there's not going to be much in the way of headlines for that. I wouldn't be surprised if at Gamescom they actually start spoiling stuff towards what's coming after the fact. Not the first major patch afterwards, but like the 11.0.5 patch, right? To give them some news that isn't going to completely derail the season 1 that they're going into. So like, I expect to see something like that as news for World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, I'm not a Diablo. This is not a Diablo show, so I'm not even going to pretend about that. Overwatch also, I suspect that they'll show a new hero or something, even if it's early development, just to keep that hype going. But in terms of like, yeah, the developers, the people going, you're looking at Rhetoric, head of PR, has confirmed that he's going. You're looking at
Ollie's going.
Holly. Yep, Holly definitely said she was going. I didn't see if Maria. Oh, I'm forgetting her last name. It's not Hilton,
Nope,
maybe.
Nope. That's the Avengers.
Avengers. That's the one I keep screwing up. But Maria, I apologize for forgetting your last name. I believe I haven't seen her stepping out. She was in the last London one when Holly went. And you're right. They have a big European staff, and because they're working with Xbox, hopefully there's some work there, so it's not pulling directly from just the Blizzard team. They get to streamline some of that work as well. So that's it.
That's actually fair. They can outsource a lot of the like. Oh yeah. No, I think it'll be cool. I worry constantly. Ever since I started learning about the games industry, I wake up every day and I'm just like, I hope the devs don't have too much crunch today. So every single thing that comes out, I'm like, but is this going to make the devs have more crunch? And I'm sure that if I could actually talk to devs, they'd be like, we all knew the industry. Like, what? Calm down. It's fine. But I worry about them. So if you're a dev,
I mean,
I'm so sorry that I make you work on these games.
I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of like, a little bit of what you're getting into, but you still don't want, like, it's like, I understand that teaching is a thankless job for so many people, and I appreciate teaching. And I'm sure a lot of people who get into teaching know that there's some of that in store. I still don't want it for them. Like, I don't want it to be good for them. Same thing with the devs. Yeah. Like, go ahead.
As somebody who had a career in an industry where it was often said to us by superiors and media personnel, well, you knew what you were signing up for. Nobody ever knows what they're signing up for. So the devs, until you've actually been in that situation where you're being told this is what needs to happen and this is the hours, and by the way, regardless of the outcome of the game, you might get laid off. Yeah, I don't think I do. I feel for the devs. I hope they are doing their best, but I definitely don't. I don't think any of them would say to you, "Don't worry, Lex. We knew what we were signing up for." I think they appreciate your support.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't. I'll go to war with them. Devs, just DM me. I'll go to war for you.
That's right.
There you go. Well, the devs aren't the only people getting getting support. We have also got a 5-star review this week from this one's from the Canadian store. Sean, can I pass this one to you?
You can, but it's a lot more fun when we make Lex do them. Okay, so we got from Smo12345 in Canada. The title of their review is "Where Have You Been All My Life?" Amusing, informative, and gives me my wow fix on my way to work. Great production quality. Also, appreciate the Canadian content. Mo, thank you for this 5-star review for Azeroth, and we'll see you at Tim Hortons. I don't actually go to Tim Hortons. I'm a Canadian. I don't watch hockey or go to Tim Hortons. I'm like the worst Canadian, and I'm a bit of a dick.
Listen, Tim's ain't Canadian anymore, man. They got bought out by some things. Forget Tim's. I'll see you at the Canadian Tire. Still Canadian.
Yeah.
With that said, let's go to the big story. And I've been pushing through the news because there was so much in this story that we are not going to cover it in full. Guys, make sure you check out the For Azeroth show notes. I've got links to the interviews because this is the Wowhead interview with Ian Hazzikostas and Morgan Day. And as much as I give Wowhead crap for splitting up everything into 5 different articles, this one's valid, guys. There's a lot in here, and I'm glad that they broke it down into different segments. This was a very information-rich interview. So make sure you guys check it out in its entirety. We are not going to even try to do a synopsis here. We're just going to be talking about the things that were said and what we think that implies as we go into this new era in the world, in the war within. So we each had takeaways. Lex and Sean have put their takeaways in there. I was lazy. I didn't throw my takeaways in, but we're going to have a conversation here. Lex, let's start with your takeaway on this interview.
Let's not start with mine. Let's start with someone else's. I think that mine was the most. I primarily noticed one little concern I have with the interview. So I think somebody else will go first because I can then be negative and I can be a lovey.
Okay, cool. I also have takes about the thing that you put down. That's why I didn't put it in mine.
Oh,
okay. But we'll just get some combined takes. So I just want to say overall, first off, I stand by my statement that this week was W's for Blizzard. This interview as a whole, when taken from start to finish, is a combined victory. Ian Hazzikostas and Morgan Day sitting down to talk about the game and the direction and lessons they've learned and how they're listening to the community and the changes they want to make for the better and for the different for Warcraft. So as a whole, if you sit down, you read this interview or you watch any of the myriad number of videos on YouTube covering it, it is a massive win. But now we're going to cover it here and we're going to have some takes. Some of them are going to be spicy.
Yeah. Go ahead. Before you dive into it, I just want to say that like this interview is really what I wanted. If I had one criticism of this interview that overrides anything else, is I would have loved this interview way earlier. Like this interview informs feedback. This interview tells everybody who's looking at like all the patch notes and data mining stuff and like going through every little line item, what in the world the team is thinking when they make these changes. This is so much better than a developer note in a particular patch note. This is like the water coolers that we used to get back in the day of like, okay, so like, here's what we're thinking about like how we're going to take this system. And here's why we're going to be making a bunch of changes. And they're all related because they all go towards this new philosophy. A lot of times I will see people look at something and be like, oh, they're not really doing the bring the player, not the spec. They're not really doing the whatever catchphrase Ian may have said. Guys, bring the player, not the spec was back in BC. You're talking about something 16, 17 years ago. He may have developed that theory a little bit further, may have gone too far and brought it back or whatever. I've seen too many people who will say those catchphrases and then be like, I gotcha, because you said this back in 2006. And so giving current thought process is so strong here.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to dive into it. We had to decide as a team whether we were going to sort of paraphrase each section and give a little some thoughts on it, or cherry pick sections, or one of us, the best of us, suggested a theatrical read through of it with each of us adopting the role of one of the individuals. And I actually think that's the one we should have gone with. I would have loved to have been Squishy and hear Lex's version of Ian Hazzikostas and Manny's Morgan Day. But I digress. We ended up falling on rough synopsis and paraphrasing. I want to talk about rating first because it's the first topic in the event. And there were three major questions that came up sort of in the rating section. And it was lessons learned about private auras and how they felt about gearing and the difficulty of the raid. And basically they said, well, there's too much for me I can't like gloss this. So I'm going to do like a quick one and then I'll see if anybody has any thoughts on it. Okay. Private auras, they talked about private auras and lessons learned. And Ian's thoughts on it are there's some they did really well and some they handled poorly. And the example he gave is when the mechanic was a personal mechanic that a player had to run out from the group and deal with it on their own, private auras worked well. And I think as a community, everybody agrees with that. You could make the argument, and most do, that you don't need to put those things on private auras because those weren't being solved by weak auras anyway. But those are examples of times when it was good. And he said times when it was bad, when it was a communal organized event where we had to then develop a macro to solve a puzzle faster, like the Neltharion Hearts or the Feroc Intermission Phase 1. To Blizzard's credit, again, Ian mentioned this, they identified that was an issue, and they removed the private auras from Farak in Mission Phase 1, which made that fight so much smoother, so much better to play as a player. And they both said, Morgaday and Ian both said, going into the War Within, we identify this. We want to try and lean more. We're not getting rid of private auras. We like them. And Morgan explains why they like them. But we like them. We're going to lean more into this is a thing that is a personal responsibility and not a raid-wide organization thing, and away from the raid-wide organization thing. And we've seen that in the raid testing with Sister Christian, the Princess Nexus fight. With the lines, the 4 purple lines, and if you're one of the ones targeted, your line is red. I'm pretty sure that's a private aura, and they're visually, they've made that work. Morgan brought up, there's so many swirls in fights now because it went from being a type of mechanic they would use occasionally to being the baseline where they had to start because everything was already solved by weak auras. So they were just like, just throw more swirls at it. So they're going to be able to get away from that as well. And overall, I was coming into this prior to this interview, I was heavily anti private aura because of that reason, that the ones that it works good on, you don't need it. And the ones that it doesn't work good on are cumbersome. But to see them say and identify, yeah, we recognize that, and we're going to develop more towards the latter and away from the former. And if it opens up more development choices and more mechanic choices in the boss fight, I'm all for it. Let's go private auras in the raid. But it shows that they're learning. You guys have any thoughts on that? I'm sorry. This interview is so good.
Yeah, no,
I think sorry.
I have feelings about private as I think. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I like reading that. I was like, oh yeah, like everything that Sean said in when we were talking about this, I feel like is being responded to and is being heard, which is good. It means that they are listening. It makes me think they are taking feedback and they are doing a good job of genuinely trying to put that all together. But sorry, Manny, what were you saying?
Oh no, I mean, like, yeah, like it definitely follows what you two are saying. I think that they have to be careful about it because running something out of the team is something that, yes, you could have a private aura and hey, we don't need it, or yes, we definitely do. And there's so many different things that can adjust that. Flat out, we had an Altharian fight, which had the private aura of run the thing out of the arena. And unfortunately, the thing that you had to run out had such a huge area that it denied that you had to run it to very specific places and people couldn't run to the same place. And it happened so fast that like it felt like a weak aura was needed, and it was one of the most infamous ones for that entire macro thing in order to get around it. So like it's like when they gave that example, I'm like, you're kind of glazing over it a little bit. And
I feel like I just have to interject. I feel like the hearts on Neltharion fall under the group organization. That's not an individual has a mechanic to run out. This is a thing required by the raid team to coordinate. I think it fell under that category, and I'm pretty sure that's where they see that as well, because it did require the coordination of the entire raid team to move into the free spaces and for people to move out.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where that would fall down. That wouldn't fall under this is a personal responsibility one. I think that would be under this is a group coordination one.
Sure. But like if you had another ability that required people to like run out super fast, right? That's still a personal responsibility thing, and like it becomes like a hey, like yes, weak auras are not necessary if you do enough telegraphing, right? Mm-hmm. So that people know it's happening and can react quickly enough. But also, it's a matter of like how much time they give it, what level of difficulty we're in, because like something like those arrows that we see on the Nexus Princess, right? I think work on the Nexus Princess because she's so late in the raid. If that was an opening boss thing, or if that showed up, let's say on LFR, right? I would call foul on that. So I think that in some cases, it's more than just what the mechanic is. It's what's surrounding the mechanic, how soon the mechanic shows up in a raid, in a fight. But these, of course, are all things that they know. It's just that, like, I hate when it kind of gets glazed over so quickly that people start drawing false conclusions from that. And I wish it felt like the interviewer could have followed up to break that down a little bit more.
Okay. I feel like we're in Bizarro world because I am normally the one who is anti-private aura, and you're the pro. No, the devs are gonna. Don't worry, the devs got it. We just completely swapped.
Okay, well, let's go to part 2 for you.
All right, so this is part 2. It's all sort of still part of raid, but I'm going to lump all of this into one. In the interview, they talked about gearing progression in the raid and difficulty of the raid and having the raid feel easier over time. It's 3 very nuanced points that they talk about. My summary is just going to be about all of it sort of lumped in together. And I definitely recommend reading it. And basically what Blizzard said is, yeah, we recognize there was some issues with the difficulty of Yggdrasil. We also recognize there's some issues with people gearing out early on and then having no upgrades later on, and then there being no soft nerf to the raid. And again, they give all kinds of nuance to this, so please go. I recommend go read it because they break down. There's a lot more nuance. But the big thing I wanted to touch on is they mentioned that in season 1 of The War Within, they're going to bring back a mechanic similar to the re-origination array that you've seen in Old Deer, which is a stacking damage and healing buff to a player in the raid only, and capping at 20% right now. Currently, they're capping at 20%. And the way you gain stacks, like in Icecrown Citadel, you just gained it over time. But the way they're looking at gaining stacks is by using the questing system. So I imagine it'll be like our, Veldraken, helping Veldraken Accord or whatever that's called, the Loam Nippon one, be a smelly friend or whatever it was. I imagine it'll be that just gives you power in the raid. And again, another huge W, because for teams that are working on farm, once your gear's capped out before you kill the last boss, you would like the farm to get easier. For teams that are working to get those kills, this also does the same thing, because gearing is, I think right now at a good pace, but it does typically outstrip when you get to the final couple bosses. And it's nice to see them recognize the difficulty curve was too steep in Yggdrasil. And in the interview, they talk about adjustments to that as well. It's everything that they're saying that they see in the raid that they're looking to make adjustments, in my opinion, are all really good things.
I'm sorry. Like, come on. I get what they're saying, but unfortunately, we saw the absolute huge jump in difficulty in Vault of the Incarnates going to Razageth. Razageth felt like a completely different raid in terms of difficulty when you went to the last boss. And I don't think that was like just in Mythic. That was true in Heroic. That was true in Normal. I don't know about LFR. I don't touch LFR. But the jump in difficulty for that last boss, huge. Then they went into the Aberrus, right? Mm-hmm. And the difficulty was all over the place in that. You had like a fairly tough wall boss with, I forget the name of the boss, but it's the one that threw the mines and had all the traps.
Ziskarn.
Right? And then you went into the absolute face roll right after it, and it just felt weird. But then right after that, suddenly the difficulty jumped right back up again. And so, like, them saying, yeah, we're going to be better about the difficulty curve, you don't seem to be learning your lesson throughout an entire expansion, and you have said it before. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take that one with a grain of salt.
I do think, I could be wrong, my takeaway from rating in Dragonflight is that we were having a little bit of an issue of the dev potentially listening to people a little bit too much, right? Because that's kind of what I was feeling, is that like at first everyone was like, oh my God, this is so easy, and then like boosted things up, and they boosted it felt like they were maybe being overly reactive to the community, which is why we were seeing these like massive shifts in difficulty between raids. So I'm hopeful that is something they are going to be able to work out. I will say on Radagast, like, yes, big difficulty spike, but that's like end bosses usually are, right? Like Sylvanas with a huge difficulty spike from the rest of the raid. Denathrius was a huge, like, honestly, everything in Shadowlands was a massive, like, there was just like through going going through, and then it gets a little bit harder in the last few bosses, but you can still mostly push through. And then you get to the final boss. It's like, hey, now we're going to start making jokes about how the top teams are doing 200 pulls on this, right? Which I don't like. I won't act. This might be an unpopular opinion. I don't really think having that, the rest of the is that you're getting progression, and that's keeping you going. That's keeping the energy high. And then the final boss, like usually you're able to get through a few heroic bosses before you can kill the final boss on normal, at least in my team. And I kind of like that. I kind of like how that like really intense challenge reminds you what the raid is about. The other people like a little bit more of a normal. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Manny. I'm not saying that that's not like, unreasonable. And I'm also the queen of continuing to be suspicious of Blizzard until they actually give me what I want, until they actually prove themselves. But I'm hopeful.
I think that with Avarice and less so since they had another tier behind it, but this entire gear upgrade system with crests and flight stones, and that's now continuing to the War Within, that was a big thing in terms of like causing people to like no longer get any upgrades from the content they were doing, because you would like run through Mythic Plus and you get all of these upgrades, and by the time you're like up against the last boss, it's like, what's on your loot table? And unless it was perfectly itemized, or like, you know, an actual freaking legendary for those who are lucky enough to get the legendary, there wasn't really anything there for you. And I felt that was a bit of a misstep that they are now addressing, where we have seen, hey, the last couple of bosses drop stuff beyond the Mythic cap. So I think they are making those adjustments. So I don't want to sit here and be like completely the like Sultan of Salt here. I just want to say that like, yeah, there are some times where it's like, here, like I want to see that actually play out. And I do want to say that Dragonflight did have this issue because we got rid of borrowed power. Every time you look back at like Shadowlands and BFA and being able to upgrade, and Legion before that, and being able to upgrade beyond the tier, it was because we had artifact power, Azerite, just all the stuff that we put into the Covenants that kept boosting us week after week, even if we weren't getting upgrades. And I guess they're now having to go like, wait a second, how do we still get that constant progression week after week without it coming from strictly gear? And yeah, this Uldir sort of re-origination callback thing, it's
I like it. I think
inelegant.
thematically, it's like the people that you're helping as you quest through, their forces are helping you in the fight. You know what I mean? You're getting stronger because you're getting support from your team, from the factions you've been assisting. You know, the Lamplighters are giving you support. I like it. I think it's a good fix.
I hope that it's just a straight damage increase, because if it's anything that like if it's like a, let's say, a haste buff, I'm gonna feel really weird going between raid to Mythic Plus, and then my character just feels different. So I just hope it's just strictly, hey, I hit harder, or the bosses are weakened, whatever it is. Because because I just don't want to completely have to shift like, oh, what am I doing here as soon as I step outside of the raid. But I do think it is good, because when you move to the next tier, at least it's not going to mean that we have a power creep into the next tier as well.
Yeah, and it also says it carries across, your buff carries across your warband. So if you do the quests to get the buff on your main, and then you swap mains, or you run an alt raid or something, you have the buff still on your alts as well.
Yep.
So it's account wide. All right, that's it for raid stuff.
Wait, I do have one thing because of what you just said.
Okay.
Please have a catch up, guys. If we come to the game late, if somebody didn't get to raid the first couple of weeks, I just want them to be able to do a quick couple of quests or something to then get as much buffs as anybody else, rather than feeling, oh shoot, I came late and I'm gonna be behind the rest of the team.
I imagine it'll be
I didn't even think of that.
It'll probably be a growing cap like they do with crests and flight stones and everything. Or not flight stones, but crests. I can't imagine it wouldn't be that like a cap that, although if it's quest based, maybe, I don't know.
Got it. Like just
suck.
Just you remember in season 1 of Dragonflight, it was do a quest to unlock your crafted stuff, and then if you came in late, you could just do the quests
in order.
Together. And then if you came in quite late, it was, hey, just give me them all.
Have to do the quests. Yeah.
So maybe it'll be like that, and I think that would be the best thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next on the docket was Mythic Plus. And again, we're not going to go through the whole interview. There's a lot of the interview below this, but the raid and the Mythic Plus section were the meatiest. And I thought until now, the ones with the most hopeful stuff in them. I think Manny and I are about to switch roles though, because I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. But we're into Mythic Plus. They talked a lot about Mythic Plus. And Lex, you had a point about Mythic Plus. Do you want to talk about that now? Do you want to dive into?
Yeah. I have quite a few points about Mythic. I will say that this section I was like not very happy with. But I'm notoriously not a big Mythic Plus player, so I am happy to be told that I just don't understand what Mythic Plus players think. And feel free to simply tell me I don't know anything, and I'll still talk. I love to talk, but
I actually have a question I wanted to specifically ask you, so this is good.
Right now, or like after we talk about this?
No, after. Yeah, it's from reading this.
Right.
I'll ask you after.
Incredible. Okay, so Mythic Plus, a lot of at least like a lot of what they were focusing on was how affixes are going to be interacting with the Mythic Plus in general. That behind that, the Wowhead interviewer, whose name I missed, Manny, you said you knew who it was. It's probably in the article somewhere.
It's squishy.
It's squishy.
We love it. Squish shout out. You made me laugh by saying, at this point, it seems that the closer we get to an affix that does nothing, the happier people are. And I'm like, shout out, bestie. You're so right. But so the devs were talking about how they think of affixes as not character to add difficulty, to add variety, right? The point is to kind of shake things up and make it interesting to the players, which I hear. But they also are saying that they want to make it so that the affixes are interacting with the Mythic Plus mechanics. And so I think they've kind of shot themselves there, right? Because if they're simultaneously, like when I was reading this and they were talking about Mythic affixes as a way to, quote, alter the puzzle, I actually that seemed really cool. And like, yeah, I can see a way that these affixes would like interact with the dungeon to make it interesting. And to be fair, I also have not been like beta or alpha, so I don't know how current. Last time they were just like undergeared, so nobody was able to feel how the affixes were doing or were working. So maybe their weird little percentages of damage of different things go up is a problem. But I do feel like if you're going to allow affix to interact with the mechanics of the dungeon, then all you have left is building difficulty, right? Like all you have left is like different things harder because it's like these numbers are higher and these numbers are lower. So I felt like they were kind of, and I realized I will not do it. So which I never do. I felt like they were kind of missing I didn't feel like that made sense. I didn't feel like they actually had a way forward to do that.
Okay. I dig it. So I want to ask you my question. In this opening statement, they're talking about affixes. Affixes are like super big point of conversation now in the community among people at the low end of Mythic Plus and the absolute high end. It's all we're talking about. And they said, we recognize that there's some stuff going on here. We're not done iterating. We have more changes to come up. We're not going to make any announcements today, but we are going to have some new changes in the upcoming beta builds. Check the forums, watch for stuff like that, which I hate that answer, but it tells us that they are working towards something. But one of the statements that Ian made is that he understands how affixes like bolstering and bursting, how affixes they inject variance. And at the highest end of Mythic Plus, variance is bad because it limits the weeks that you can do your absolute best. If you can do your best on a bursting volcanic week, then every other week feels worse. So they become dead weeks, so you don't play. So they said they're working on a system to limit the variance for the high end of Mythic Plus, which we don't know what that is. They haven't said it. To me, it sounds like controlled affixes or limited affixes in the higher end of Mythic Plus. But he said that for the people that do 1 key a week for their vault or just do keys to fill their vault, that they enjoy affixes because it gives them variation in the keys. And this is my question, Lex, because in my mind, if you're only doing 1 dungeon a week or you're only doing 8 dungeons a week, are you doing enough dungeons to get bored with the selection? And I guess my question to you directly is, do you enjoy the affixes because they make the dungeons different?
Sean, when I read that part of the interview, I literally, if you're my boss, stop listening, had to like stand up and pace and talk to myself for 30 minutes because I thought like I was just like so unhappy with that. That is exactly what I was upset about. I will say I am a very low level Mythic Plus player, right? I only do it with my group. I really like, I'll do like a countable number of Mythic Pluses a season, right? So it's possible that I'm not actually who like the target audience. I will say though, one of the reasons that Mythic Plus is scary to me is because the affixes lend so much variance, and because I don't play a lot of Mythic Plus, I never feel like I can fully if you said like, oh, Lex bursting, what does it do? I don't know. And again, this probably means that I'm a lower level player. In fact, this definitely means that I'm a lower level player. But that means, for example, pugging is really scary for me because I don't know what's going to happen in the dungeon, and I don't know what the current strat is, like what the current meta is. And so I don't know if I'm going to start getting yelled at in the middle of a Mythic. I didn't realize that actually a healer mechanic and like my team was teasing it, or like, you know, and that makes it really, really stressful. So I thought the idea that affixes are too frustrating and complicated and lend too much variance and make it too difficult for the people who play Mythic Plus all of the time, right? That is their number one thing. That is that is what they're doing in the game. That's too hard for them. But the affixes are at a reasonable level for those of us who don't play a lot, like is missing the point to such a massive degree that like I had a moment where I was like, I take it all back. I don't think this is fixable. Get rid of affixes. Like, don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the player base. These should just be removed. So no, I don't like affixes. I would much prefer Plus if affix didn't exist. And I am very concerned of how they're approaching Mythic Plus based on what was said and said.
Okay. Manny, would you say, I think you're somewhere like between Lex and I, you get Keystone Hero every season. Would you say you fall into that category of like a vault filler type Mythic Plus runner?
I go between being a vault filler as like the mid range of where I am to like, I'm loving this. Let me just keep playing. Let me go hunt down like the exact best in slots. So I'll run the same dungeon 8 times on top of the eight that I need to fill in the dungeon with. So like I fluctuate between them. I have had times where it's like, oh geez, this week, you know what? Like, oh, this sucks. And I have had times where I'm like, oh, sweet deal. Like, this is the week where I like switch this around and I get to do this, and like, oh man, I'll put down my totem and I'll remove the afflicted and the healer will love me and all of that sort of stuff. And initially with a lot of the, and I mean like initially in terms of Legion, BFA, and a little bit into Shadowlands, right? I was always liking, okay, let me switch around my kit to see what I can do to make things worse or better for the situation. And so there was like, this is my build for Tyrannical Week. This is my build for Fortified Week. This is my build for when Afflicted shows up. This is the talents that I want to go into for this. And so that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I really enjoyed engaging with that. We're going to have a further conversation where we're going to be talking about the changes that they have done to utility. I talked, I remember playing back in Legion and affixes weren't really that big of a thing. The scary ones was like necrotic because your tank would suddenly have to start running and kiting and they hated it. Or something like that. And really what I only cared about was, can I bring the damage? Can we do the biggest pulls? And can we clear the dungeon the fastest possible? And I and so when I'm in that mindset, in my opinion, that's where the high end is. And it's like, it's not even, hey, can I defeat these affixes? Is this dungeon something that I can put together the stuff to do? Right? It is, I did a 26, a 36, whatever last week. And I know because of all the theory crafting I've done or the experience that I've had over the last how many seasons that I cannot hit that 36 this week. So what's even the point? Right? Mm-hmm. People will be warming up on keys that I can't even imagine. Right? Mm-hmm. And so the affixes aren't an interesting flair that I get to like tackle. It's a hindrance to what the challenge actually is. And so that's the breakdown between people who are engaged with affixes and the people that any affix that does anything other than increase DPS, go look at like Encoded or all those stuff that were Kiss Curse in Shadowlands, are actively hateful to their experience. And I think that's what they're talking about.
That's exactly what they're talking about. But I want to know how you feel.
I engage like mad sometimes and hate it on other times. So I've run the gauntlet.
Right. Okay. I have asked. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so one thing I'm kind of getting a conversation is that maybe actually Blizzard does know what they're talking about. Maybe for the like me, that's why they Mythic 0 so much higher, so that I wouldn't even deal with a timer and I don't have to deal with an affix for a very long time. For somebody like Sean, they they're pulling down the affixes at the highest levels they can grind. And for somebody like Manny, are actually people who do enjoy that advance. Having that kind of in between is actually really positive. So maybe I'm the problem, and maybe not everything's about me, and maybe my way of playing is not the way that everyone likes to play, allegedly. But I'm sorry, Sean, you go.
No, I don't think that, because I agree. I don't think affixes. I think everything trickles down. I'm a big fan, except economics, but I'm a big fan of the way that it trickles down in the Mythic Plus scene. That other thing's a scam. Don't believe it. And something I've noticed, because I have asked other friends, because I was incredulous. I was like, there's nobody who likes affixes. Nobody enjoys these. Nobody wakes up on a Tuesday morning and goes, yeah, bolstering this week. Nobody does that. But then I found out that I have some friends, Manny included, who liked Incorporeal, who liked Afflicted, who like Entangling. And the common thing that all of them had is they all played Shaman. Because Shaman has a unique toolkit where they can deal with Incorporeal. They make it it's non-affix with a Shaman in the group, or Afflicted, whichever one is the Poison Cleansing Totem one. If you have a Shaman, that affix doesn't exist. The other one, the Hex, they get to engage with it. Entangling, they run Thunderous Paws, it doesn't exist. So Shamans have this, and I know Shamans get a lot of heat and they don't get a lot of updates right now. I'm a massive fan of Shamans. Not all, but a lot of my good friends are Shamans and like Shaman mains for life. And I love having them in groups. They're like an Afflicted and Incorporeal group. I don't run a dungeon without a Sham. It's my friend. He's a Shaman, and those affixes don't exist because he's in the group, and he seems to like it because he gets to be the one that saves the day. Anybody who's not a Shaman doesn't have that experience, man.
So I'll talk to you about. I'm a
warrior. I can't do anything to two of these affixes. Yeah.
I will talk about different players who are like engaging with it at different levels and how that adjusts to them. But I also talk to you about players who love their moment of glory, who like one of the memories that I will have with me about Warcraft comes from like Wrath of the Lich King. And it was literally like second boss. We're running Heroic 25 and people are dropping like flies. And what ended up happening was that it was chasing down and the tank was about to die. We only had one battle res and I got to Ankh. And it's like, oh, good, you got to Ankh. What does that do? Well, I got to Taunt. And then the boss is like, oh, I'm going to go smash his face. And guess what, guys? My hero moment, I got flattened. But it gave them enough time to res the other tank. They got to Taunt, and it saved the entire team from wiping. And it was a cool moment that my particular kit got to do. Up until a certain point, you could Ankh, during the Lich King fight. He wouldn't suppress that. And so one of my fun moments was he'd be like, you're all dead. And I'm like, yeah, except that I'm not. And I get to like hack on his ankles until he finished the RP. It was great, right? I think that when you have these moments, they're fantastic. And I like that affixes lend themselves to that. I just don't think that they should be so polarizing. I don't think that you should go up against an affix and it's like, I can't do crap about that. I don't think you should have an affix where it's like, well, this is my time to shine, except there are 4 other classes that do 10 other things better than me, and and this is one of them, and so I never have a chance to shine. So I really like when the affixes give me those hero moments, because I'm not going to top the DPS charts. Shamans are mid at best this season, and they were there last season, and I don't want to talk about season 2, so I'm not going to top the damage meters. We go into dungeons, right? And it's like, hey guys, I can hit 5 targets. Like, congratulations, Manny, we're pulling 35. I get it. So like, different ways of challenging the specs, I think, should be included, and affixes allow for that. Sometimes they get it wrong, but they also get damage tuning wrong. So every affix is just as bad as any kind of tuning.
Yep. Again, like I said, I'm a big Shaman fan, and I think the takeaway from this part of the interview is Ian and Morgan both said, we recognize people aren't happy with where we're at. We're working on it. Stay tuned for more. And I think that's the best way to look at it. They're not like sitting back and going, yep, job's done. We've got changes coming, and I think that's good. And fortunately, we have some changes coming that I think are not as good. And again, it goes back to my love of shamans that I think this is going to be an issue. I actually think we used to say mages were the main class of Warcraft. I'm starting to think through this conversation that it's shamans. No other class can pick themselves up from the dead and then taunt a boss to save a raid pull. Just saying. So on that note, they talked about, and this is the last piece from the interview that I want to touch on specifically. The rest of it is all good stuff, like target capping and everything. There's all kinds of really good information in there. But anyway, they said they're getting, so right now in Dragonflight, when you go into a dungeon, enemies are coded that once their cast of an ability starts, that ability goes on if interrupted, that ability goes on cooldown. And that's if it's interrupted through an interrupt, a disorient, a displacement, or a stun. So anything at all, if you interrupt that cast, that ability goes on cooldown. It doesn't cast again for X seconds. This makes it so that classes can make full use of the utility kits. So Thunder, Shock, App Totem, Hodge, all this stuff. You see a cast, you stun it, you displace it, whatever you do, it stops the cast, you're safe for a little bit. A lot of these are AoE stuns because of the nature of Mythic Plus. You're pulling larger packs usually, but even if you're only pulling one single pack, there's lots of times when multiple mobs are casting at once, including the War Within. I can give a specific example if we need it. Anyway, they're changing it the way that it works back to a way that it used to work in the past. And we talked about earlier on in this episode how they've made so much progress making the game better over 20 years. I don't think stepping backwards is the right play. The change that they're making is only some casts will go on cooldown if stunned, displaced, or anything other than a kick. And some casts will go on cooldown kick only. Unfortunately, they don't say, hey, these casts will be this and these casts will be this. So if you're not specifically running a nameplate mod with color-coded spells, well, first of all, if you're not running a nameplate mod, you don't know what they're casting anyway. Or who they're targeting. But if you're not running a nameplate mod with specific color-coded casts, you don't know, is this a cast that I can put on cooldown with a kick, or do I need to stun? And secondly, from a new player perspective, as a new player, you see a cast, you think, all right, I stop this cast with whatever tool I have available to me, whether it's a stun, a fear, a knock, or a kick. And then they instantly start recasting it again. You're like, oh, I guess I need a kick. If you think that far, or maybe you just think, oh, they just recast it again. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a problem because it's going to highly value shortened kick timers. So on rogues, shamans, stuff like that, and completely devalue and remove the benefit of those utility spells like Cap Totem, Shadow Fury, Chaos Nova, because now they're not going to do anything other than restart a cast. My big problem is if you're going to make it so that only kicks, only traditional interrupts put a cast on cooldown, make it all of them. But to say that it's some and not others, and he specifically calls that out, that some of them will do it and some won't, is against we want to lower cognitive load on players. Yeah. Anyway, Manny, what do you think? Hit me. Tell me you're upset, Manny, that they're taking away your utility. No more hero moments.
Sorry. There are hero moments. They're just different hero moments. So with these spells, some of them can be kicked, some of them it can't be kicked. It's partly it's because they changed when the spells went on cooldown from the initial start of the cast to when they finish casting. So if it doesn't finish casting because it's being stopped or something else, it doesn't go on cooldown. That change was made, I think BFA was when they made that change. It might be just ahead of Shadowlands, but quite simply put, that change devalued some things and increased the value of others. It definitely increased the value of stops. It definitely increased the value of displacement. Now that's returning back to where it was, but it also means that other things are getting increased value relative. Think about druids. It's a great example. A lot of druids these days, currently in Dragonflight, will use the 1-2 combo of putting down a Typhoon and
Ursul's
Vortex to like do the stop. Beforehand, the way that they would do it is root them in a beam so that they'd be silenced. So the relative value of the stops have changed, but they still have something to work with.
They've lost the stop completely, though. They still have Solar Beam, but now they no longer can use Ursul's Vortex and Typhoon. So they've lost that ability.
But one thing, and I do want to mention this, one thing that Sean had pointed out was that, hey, if you do a stop, you can't do it willy-nilly anymore because once they are stopped, all you've done is lined up all the swing timers. So instead of damage being spread out over a bunch of times, it's now all coming in at once. Now, that Vortex can disrupt swing timers because some of them will take longer to get in than others. Sort of thing that you kind of do with like Thunder, which is another one that was used as a stop. Instead of knocking them back, we started knocking them up as shamans. The knock up effect meant that they all landed in the relatively same area. They would all attack at the same time. The knocking them back at distance with a slow means that it takes them time to get back in. You are also causing a disruption in the swing timer. So the variance changes. It means
they land and start casting where you've knocked them because they instantly start their recast.
Correct. If you're hitting, but like the melee swings. But now the melee swings are different. There's also times where you would use that Thunder as the knock up, right? But then you would not have it for the displacement for Sanguine, right? Sanguine was Thunder was used a lot before this change to displace people out of the bad, as it were. In terms of like any kind of groups, you're not going to have just casters. You're going to have casters and melee in there. You're going to have some that are casting something that can be interrupted, some that are going to be casting stuff that can't be interrupted. So with those groups,
it's not that it can't be interrupted. It just chain casts it, right? You can interrupt it, but it just starts the recast right away.
Yeah, sorry. Some that can be interrupted with a stop, rather.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. And in those, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. This is a little bit interrupting, but as somebody who is primarily plays a healer, and so I'm really only looking at this from the outside, I guess my first thought would be like, isn't that kind of the point? Isn't that why certain things are silences versus just straight interrupts? Is that silences keep you quiet for a while and straight interrupts just bounce you around a little bit?
Yeah, like it
Except
yes,
it's reversed.
well, the thing is, the problem is that because everything acted as a de facto interrupt, interrupts lost their
Mm-hmm.
value, right? You would use the interrupt, like let's say wind share, the fastest interrupt in the game at range, right? You would use that, but not before you use all your AoE stops, because your AoE stops were just more valuable. You would use one GCD, stop 3 things, they would go on cooldown, right? And Thunder Thunder didn't even use a GCD, so you'd be like, oh, I get to use my entire rotation while effectively disrupting 3 casts along with it, right?
Yeah, push back on that a little bit because individual kicks weren't devalued at all. You were able to save those for the priority spells. So in every caster pack, because what Blizzard has done is caster packs now have a melee cast and then a strong cast or a big cast you want to interrupt. So we would all still use, unless they were all synced up, you would still use your single interrupts for those big casts, and the AoE interrupts, stuns, displacements were being used for the smaller things like the Cinder Bolts and Ruby Life Pools, because if one person gets targeted with 3 of them, they're dead. They get one shot. Yeah, so it's single target interrupts did not lose any value with the implementation of AoE stuns. It just made it survivable with the way that the packs are built. And they're still built the same way in War Within. There's still multiple casters in a single, even if you're not pulling 2 or 3 packs, there are still single packs that have multiple casters in them. And now they just there's in Arakara, there's 2 mobs. They're packs of 2. They're in that hallway with the eggs. Both of them cast a knockback. It can only be put on cooldown with an interrupt. And if it not, they chain cast a knockback in this hallway. And every time you get knocked back, you hit eggs and spawn more mobs. I went in there with a mage, a hunter, 2 mages and a hunter. And we had 45 mobs within 30 seconds. It was so insane. So I'm just not going to take mages. I'm just going to take short kicks.
I mean, like, yes, the kick is one answer, but like a stun would be good, especially since you are now dealing with only 2 priority mobs. Like, yes, plus the.
But you're not gonna pull just 2 mobs. You're gonna pull multiple. You can't if you're doing Mythic Plus at any level above.
No, I said 2 priority, not 2 mobs totally.
Oh, sorry. But yeah. So that priority, if you stun it, it's only interrupted for the length of that stun, and then it casts it again immediately.
Yeah, but you are using, like with the mages, you have, like, and mages are horrible for this. You have a disorientate, right? Keep in
mind these all have DRs, they all have cooldowns on them. Yeah. So the second one is half
the interrupt.
Yeah.
Right. You can use a knockback, right? Because you had the hunter. The next mage is there, and like if that pool is too much, right? Then I think they've successfully found a pack that becomes hey, this is a dangerous pack, and I'm okay.
It's not fun.
I'm okay with a dangerous pack, the pack that you need to be wary of, right? Maybe you don't deal with that pack, you deal with another pack. I know with the pack that you're talking about, there's one on either side. You have to deal with it.
There's 4 packs on either side. You have to do them.
Yeah. There's 2 different ways.
To pull those in Mythic Plus would kill the key. You would not be able to do it and time it. You just can't. You wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. So it becomes hey, is that particular pack that needs to be addressed? But again, they can balance around this. It's the same thing with the defensive conversation that's had. It's like when you have all of these stops, I guess we have to have a million casts so that something actually gets through. When stops do everything, including stopping all damage as well as putting stuff on cooldown, then stops are way higher value than anything else. Chains is as good as silence, is as good as thunder, is as good as a singular interrupt, right? So this change creates niches, creates a value for this that's different than a value for that's different than a value for something else. And I get that it doesn't work with the current paradigm of what things are, and that sucks for the current paradigm. But my immediate thing would be, I really would hope and would like there to be a good value for me actually not putting a point in the the way to knock people up into the air, right? Versus knocking them back. I really would like there to be a reason not to take the mage with 1,000,000 stops for somebody that has better interrupts.
Okay. We'll have to agree to disagree.
Manny
I feel like we
sure
played
that
different
he
games,
can-
Manny.
Manny just wants to make sure that he knocks up the trash, is what I've gotten out of this.
Yeah, he wants to get the trash
I
knocked
very
out.
much changed the wording on that last one because Rex could not keep a straight face.
Yeah. If they're going to implement this where some casts can be put on cooldown with a kick and some can't, then I would like to also see them add some way to tell which kicks those are, which casts those are, because currently there's not in the base UI. You need external add-ons. So. Yeah.
And also,
and it adds to the cognitive load for players. So,
and also they added in a bunch of abilities where they used to have a cast time, and now they're instant. They are spells that just instantly cast. So what does that do? That means that the proactive silence or the proactive stun now has more value than the sigil interrupt or the knockback. That's another way that they've shifted some of the value without the exact thing that you're upset about in the interrupt. And if they make changes like that, even if they change the one thing that you're upset about, then they're pleasing me and getting rid of your issue too.
Yeah, I mean, my issue is I think if you stop a cast, the cast should go on cooldown. Period. I don't care how you stop it. A new player is not going to have any idea. You put a new player in a Mythic 0, they're going to have no clue that they have to use an interrupt versus a stun. They're going to think, I stunned it. Why did that not work? Yep. And then they're going to get yelled at. And then they're going to stop running Mythic Plus, and then we're going to hear there's a problem in Mythic Plus toxicity. And it's going to be like, yeah, well, of course there is, because you made this shit so difficult.
I mean, shit is difficult right now.
Yeah. I don't know how you can say that it's difficult right now, but you look at the raid stuff they said and be like, no, they're not going to make it better. It's terrible. This is the exact opposite.
No,
I feel like you can't.
You just went from, no, I don't care what they said about raids. It's bad now. I hate it. And now you're saying, well, it's difficult today, but it might not be tomorrow.
No. I'm just saying that when they put out something.
Frustrating, Manny. You're very frustrating.
No, I'm saying when they put out something and they say oh yeah, this will make it all better. It's not unless you cover a bunch of things. And when they say, hey, we're doing this, and it's going to empower certain things that have completely.
They said they're doing it to make it better, so that they decrease the value of AOE stops
and increase the value of other things.
Okay, let me know on launch day when no boomkins are getting invited with their 60-second cooldown on kick.
Understood.
See how it goes then.
Yeah, I just generally think that they're trying to bust up the God comp with this. Because the God comp,
this has zero effect on the God comp. None. The God comp wasn't built because of AOE stops. The God comp was built because of damage profiles and damage amps that build into each other. And Vengeance Demon Hunter's double sigils enabled it. So it had nothing to do with AOE stops on mages and shadow priests and augmentation evokers.
The stops that this is an aside. This is definitely a side, but I believe that Demon Hunters and all the stops that they had that could carry through a team helped. And there's a number of things in the God comp that definitely helped, including the fact that all their damage profiles were really skewed to high counts, definitely, but also the amount of defensives and things that they could survive, and also the amount of times that they could stop things so they wouldn't have to deal with that, all contributed to it. And so they're not just looking at the one issue of, hey, damage, they're also looking at everything else that contributed to it, because Augvokers were gross, not just because they amped other people's damage, but because they increased the survivability and throughput of the tank and healer as well. So there's always multiple things that are going through it, and they're not just looking at the top level thing that people are complaining about today. They're talking about what happens after they deal with that.
Okay.
Sean and I,
They're not
each
in
other
the,
today.
they're not doing that. They're not doing that in the raid, apparently, because Manny disagreed with that. Got it. Okay.
Got it. Yep.
All right. I'll just prepare for us to be on opposite sides every week. That'll be easier.
Okay. Do you have anything more?
This is so fun.
No,
I want you guys like innuendos. We all do it best at.
Yeah, I thought the whole interview as a whole was good because it shows that they're looking to make changes. They're not sitting idle and they are listening, except for maybe affixes when they come out with anybody in a plus 25 and above has no affixes, but all you plus 10 jobbers get them. I think we'll see some complaints then, but yeah, interview as a whole was good. I think everybody should definitely read it. Yeah, I said if they have a level. Because they talked about no variance. I said, if there's a level that eliminates affixes, that's the level I'm going to run. So
I think I keep thinking that they should put back in challenge mode. I think that they should just split it off. And I don't think Mythic Plus should have a point where it's like, okay, now we turn off the affixes. I think that should literally be a separate mode. They should just be like, here, this is the difficulty. We're gonna scale you all to this point, and you guys just do your time trial. See how big you can pull, how fast you can pull. No variance in it, so that people can just go for the bragging rights. And that's what they should do, in my opinion, rather than trying to like twist. They said it in this interview. Mythic Plus is serving so many different audiences. We've got 3 people at different points here. There are people in between. There are people far on other sides. And so I think that they just need to understand it's the same thing that they had with Raid, where you need to start saying, is this a big enough audience to specifically cater to? Let's do something for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to have challenge modes back. I'm all about speed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I sort of talked about my thing with this interview, and Sean, you've already said it. I do love that they are addressing all of this sort of stuff. I wish that it had been earlier to inform people's opinions about what is coming out. Just like we were having with this conversation, we've already seen some changes that are adding to this, and more is to come. I really love that they are giving this this kind of communication. My one thing is that when they do this sort of thing, they really should actually point to, hey, all of these things are related. We're not just doing it here, but this also adds to it. Because when you look at like, okay, well, we're not doing the interrupts the same way, they should be highlighting, okay, well, we're adjusting for it in this way. And if they said that, it wouldn't be me trying to be like, well, in the tea leaves, this is what I see. And Sean be like, well, no, this isn't what I see. They should put that forward. And I think that kind of communication would help a lot more, except on this show where we get to make content out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that said, we're going to call it a night here. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. Sean, we have one more thing that you need to cover, right?
Yeah, the special thanks. So special thanks to Danny Klingen and all of our patrons. For Azeroth will always be free. But if you enjoy the content we produce, consider pledging to our Patreon at patreon.com/FAZ.
Thank you. And until
Zed, I guess, if you're in the EU. Or
Zed in Canada too. It's only the US that does it for Z.
Oh, are we all supposed to say Zed?
Yeah.
American?
Oh, that's a weird mouthfeel.
Here's the thing. Do you know why it became Z in the US?
Is there better?
No.
Is better?
No. So the US, a lot of their schools in the old times, they taught orally through nursery rhymes and stuff. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that entire thing. In order to make Z rhyme with the structure, they change it from Z to Z, and then people learned incorrectly, and then it followed through to become the dominant way of pronouncing it, and so they adopted it, and so now it's accepted spell.
What I'm getting out of this is that Americans are well educated. We all learn.
There you go. Anyways, guys, until next time, it's Zed. Good night.
May all your crits be Zeds.
May all your crispy Zeds.
May all your crits be Zeds.
Thank you for being on my side, that Sean. I needed somebody to back up on this.
Yeah, I have no idea how Manny.
You can't actually
the opposite of everything. I was like,
you wake up.
I'm excited about stuff.
I'm excited about stuff. I'm excited about.
I've never seen you say no. I don't think the devs are doing this right. You always give the devs the benefit of the doubt.
That is not true.
Every time you literally said it in our feedback in your episode. Assume goodwill.
I will assume goodwill until they've proven with a track record that they don't follow through.
Well, they've proven with a track record they don't know what the fuck they're doing with Mythic Plus.
That is not the case.
Oh, I
Mythic
disagree.
Plus has been enjoyable since its inception.
For 6 people.
6 people.
6 shamans. It's been fun for 6 shamans.
Mistweavers back in Legion loved the crap out of it. BFA rogues were going insane. They loved it back then. We had to get entire affix to.
You know why rogues loved it in BFA?
Because there was
rogues
so
loved
much
it in
trash.
BFA because they were uncapped. They had no target cap. Ask rogues about target cap now. Ask them how happy they are now. They loved it then because, like today, everybody wants big pulls.
Target caps came in Shadowlands, and I'm a big victim of the. Well, I'm not. I am a victim of the target cap. We used to have uncapped Crash Lightning, and they screwed it up. They screwed it up. Ah, man. We used to have uncapped Sundering, and they screwed it up. So, like, yeah. It's
sorry that you're now a little bit overpowered.
Not overpowered. Don't make me bring up charts. Don't make me bring up charts. I will show you shaman participation. No. Like, you'll have to like zoom in. Like,
no. Sean's me convinced.
If shamans,
you're able to figure everything out.
If shamans spent less time doing all the utility and more time doing damage, maybe they'd be higher on those charts.
They wouldn't.
Okay, I gotta find out. I just got accepted to Perky Pugs as one of their carriers.
Okay, nice.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. But I have to find a way to let them know I'm out of town next week.
Indeed.
Just don't be. Stay home.
Don't be out of town.
Let me just give a shout out to Royal Air Force Sean. Thank you for giving the donated sub to Divana.
Davina, yeah, I didn't want to listen to her cry about commercials anymore.
Well, you know how like you were about to go into it and I decided to like go on a little monologue? I specifically did it for the commercial.
I think people should sub if they want to not miss those moments.
Well, I appreciate the gifted sub. Okay. Next week, guys, we're going to be recording on a special time. So we will be here on Sunday. Is that right, guys? Sunday.
Yes.
I put a reminder so that I wouldn't forget. Yeah. Sunday, 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Yeah. Okay. Switching over to Discord causes stupid issues with the window. I got to make sure I don't do that. Well, whatever. Next week we'll be back on the regular setup.
Yep.
So we'll do that, and then we're going to celebrate Canada Day and Independence Day, and you're going to be on vacay. and then it'd be my
Vacay,
birthday,
vacay
and we got
day.
all of that stuff. It's gonna be great,
Day,
indeed. So that'll be good. That'll be good.
all days.
Mhm. Actually, Lex, I got to harass you. We got to do a giveaway.
Oh, yeah. I love giving shit away. I'll give anything away.
Phrasing. But that's not part of the episode. So we're good.
If I'm gonna get on you in the episode for saying you a shot of nothing.
We just said phrasing.
Okay. That's fair. Didn't hear that come out of my mouth.
Oh,
How fun.
yeah, fun. All right, guys. I'm gonna call it here because I actually have to get some other stuff done. Sean, we will talk shortly because I forget what the hell we have to set up. Oh, we have to figure out actually doing the show through Riverside.
Yeah, I think all of us should, if possible. I guess Lex doesn't have to be there for that, but
If both of us can't be
Hungry as
here,
fuck. I don't know. Goddamn fuck ass anyone in this town.
all right, yeah, I think it'd be
Tell
fun,
me.
especially if like maybe you do an interview or something and you can just do it through Riverside. That'd be cool. But like, yeah, we might as well have the redundancy, right? That way anybody can do it. But yeah, we're going to hop off stream here because we don't need to talk about this on stream. Have a good night,
sorry,
everybody. And
I maybe didn't have to like chain swears the way that I did.
it's fine. It's not recorded stuff. Where the hell is my OBS? I can't find shit. There it is.
That's so valid of you.
Later.
I gotta turn these lights off. I'm fucking dying.
All right, we're away, and I'm ending the stream.
Instant void.
I'll give you 3%. I'll give you 3%.
Can you not?
Damn, I never thought I'd see the day I wasn't the one with lighting issues. Although I am not liking these shadows. I'll have to figure that one out.
Ugh,
We'll get you.
you just record earlier. You just have to quit your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Just quit my job, yeah.
There you go. Yep. Move out the middle of nowhere, then quit your job. This is definitely Lex's quarter life crisis.
Because the one thing about fuck ass nowhere Vermont is it has so many jobs.
There you go.
Rural poverty? What's that?
Yeah, so we'll figure out the recording thing. We'll figure out the giveaway. We will, because I've got like a bunch of things to give away, and I think it would be good to do that leading into the War Within, so we have people who are following us, so that when they're looking for news, we're already on their radar, and so that's a good way of pushing up our following, especially since it would be stuff that other creators aren't doing. So we'll have the full focus on it.
What do we have to give away?
Oh God, a couple of mounts, a couple of pets, maybe some cosmetics. I have a spreadsheet. It's in the should be in the FAS document folder.
I don't poke around in there because I don't know.
Everything the light touches is yours, my son.
Okay.
I'm just starting shit then.
Also, I almost have the tier set thing done. I grabbed the images from Wowhead as well as some of the B-roll. Some of the B-roll was stuttery, so I just didn't use some of those.
Yeah,
but I think it looks pretty good. Once it's done, I'll drop it in a YouTube channel. I'll drop it on our YouTube channel, but unlisted. So, because you said you wanted to share it to Patreon first.
Yeah, I'll put a list. I should also make sure that you guys have access to everything as well. I know I wasn't.
Sure. It's a lot of fun. The tier sets, we had a lot of laughs.
Yeah, and then not right now. I think probably closer to the end of July. I'd like for us to figure out like just generally what we want to do with like some of the stuff that we've tried and see if we can be like, okay, where do we go from here?
Oh, are we doing a Pride thing for this month? The month's over.
Month's over, man.
Yeah.
I was at Pride Saturday. That's why I was like on the road.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been. In future, I will plan try things better, and I'll take that as my responsibility as the queer. This has just been like an insane month. Like in retrospect, a lot going on was just that my relationship was falling apart, and I didn't know, and so I thought that I just needed to like deal with emotions better, and I was just like completely checked out of life. But I'm fine now, and I'm in Vermont, so I'm sorry that I've been so hard to reach. Life is now much more settled.
I'm just glad you're okay, Lex, because we've only known each other a very short time, but I like you a lot. And I don't make friends super easy. I make acquaintances exceptionally well, but I don't make friends super easy. I feel like we're becoming friends if we're not already.
Yeah.
And I'd really like for you not to have a mental breakdown and disappear in the middle of that. So if you could be more considerate of my feelings.
Yeah, I would consider you a friend. Also, I should say, I realized as it came out of my mouth, I was checked out of life. It made it sound like I was in a much worse place than I was. I was totally fine. I just was drowning myself in distraction so I wouldn't process anything that was going on. But I was never in any danger. I was never going down a particularly bad path. I was in a rough place, and now I'm out of it.
Well, yeah.